Welcome back. I've got Cary Prejean on the line. Cary, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Michael?
I am good. Really been looking forward to this conversation. We had a brief chat in the pre-show, and I was like, I probably should hit record, because we're going to get deep into this and go, oh, crap, we missed it. So, why don't you share a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Okay. Formal education background in accounting. Did the CPA route. Worked for a couple of big Fortune 500 companies, and then I got hired away from the CPA firm, Big Eight firm, by a client. And quickly found out that small and medium-sized business owners generally don't know how to read their financial statements. They operate, they quote managed by their definition of managing by the numbers is managing what's in the checkbook. Anyway, so over the last nearly 40 years, I've developed a lot of, I guess, different competencies in order to help business owners see that if you don't know your numbers, you're a danger to your company. And pretty much that if you're a good entrepreneur, you're going to be a not so good manager. Um, and try to get the business, do, well, there's a lot of things I can do, but mainly concentrate on a few things. One is getting the business owner out of their day-to-day business, get them to do what got them into business in the first place, is that they see possibilities they can turn into revenue. Second is to get them actionable financial data once a week that they can have a 10,000 foot view of the business and dashboards, make sure that everything's going well. And like the dashboard in your vehicle, you don't really notice it all that much until something flashing, you've got a problem. Your receivables getting too old, your sales are off, your taxes aren't being filed and paid, that kind of thing. And on longer term, I like to work with business owners in terms of designing their business into the future through strategic planning. And if you're not intentional about what your business looks like into the future will design it for you. Somebody's going to design your business. So it's going to be your choice or whatever else happens. And generally, whatever else happens is not very satisfying.
Yeah, those dashboards are important. And you mentioned the dashboard on the car. Some of us, especially if we drove older cars, and are like, you know what? I'm just going to take black electrician's tape and cover up that engine light. That way I don't see it. Don't do that to your financial reports, people. I'm just telling you, or for your car for that matter, because the engine light doesn't come on just, because it's fun and
Yeah.
games. Now, I could make fun of an automaker. I'm not going to, because who knows? They may sponsor me one day. So I don't want to have it on record that I'm picking on a particular automaker. They all have their nuances, but
Yeah.
it's so critically important to understand. And I know this. I actually had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a organization that is doing well. They're in the mental health space. So they've had some rapid growth. They've expanded, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, but we want to look at our books. I'm like, you expanded, but you haven't looked at your books. It's like they had somebody doing the books for them, but I think it was just at bookkeeper level. I don't think they had anybody actually sit
Wow.
down with them and go, here's this, because I look at the situation like, okay, you've grown because you've added on this many therapists. Okay, what would happen if 5% of those therapists decided to leave? Would you still be able to be bringing in the revenue to cover the expansion cost and the development costs and utilities and all that stuff? What would that look like? Because if crazy things happen, and life
Yeah.
happens, people move, and it could be all completely unrelated, but you could lose a percentage of your staff because each of them had something go on in their lives, which is again not connected, but the timing of it could be boom. So it's like, okay, what kind of nest do you have? If the bank account says you've got this, that's awesome. You have that cash flow, but is it cash flow? I mean, what does it look like over a period of, a couple months or a couple of years? And you're spot on. I would say, and I'm sure you probably agree, you take 10 entrepreneurs that are probably in the first 3 to 5 years of their business. I'm going to say the majority of those people, unless they were wise and had financial guidance from the get-go, have been operating off of, okay, let's load up the bank account app on the phone. Okay, we have this. Okay, we're
Yeah.
doing good.
Yeah. That's generally how generally that's their quote financial management. And they really don't understand their financial state. So, and again, your financial statements are like report cards on your business, right? And they're telling a story. And if you know how to read them, you can tell a story about your company's profitability, efficiency, financial strength, liquidity. several, again, through ratio analysis, you can tell a good layman story to a business owner so that they get, oh, is that what that, oh, well, we need to improve that. Yeah. So then you start tracking it over time where you can see what your ratios are over time. And you can see if you're improving, you can actually set goals for that. And the people that I've worked with that do pay attention, they've seen some marked improvement. Again, my experience is whatever you monitor and measure regularly will improve. And you're right. A lot of them, it's like, yeah. So, what's last month's financial statement? Oh, I haven't seen financial statements in like 9 months. I think 6, 9 months. I haven't. We don't. I don't look at them. And the reason they don't look at them is because they don't mean anything.
Yeah, and
They don't have. They
it's
don't have anybody helping them tell the story of what's going on with the business.
and the thing of it is, and I know, I've got colleagues that into it, not a sponsor of the show by any stretch, but they've got their QuickBooks University. There's a free online class that it's about 20 hours, I think, if I remember correctly, but basically it will walk you through as if you know nothing about accounting. So you don't have
Right.
to take a full semester of accounting. It gives you, this is a financial statement, this is what it looks like, this is what this is for, this is why this is there, this is accrual accounting, which if you want to blow people out of the room, start talking about accrual accounting. And I remember that
Yeah.
because my original career was accounting too. So I remember, second semester accounting class, where'd everybody go? It's like it was literally like that first round was kind of like playing, chess. It's like,
Yeah.
the first level gone. You look around, it's like, oh, so we're the survivors. And then by the third class, you're like, wow, we got 9 people in this class. Okay, well, we are either really smart or really dumb. We'll figure that out at some point. But it's so critically important because if you don't understand it, that means you think you're doing well, and all of a sudden, tax time comes, and you go, "Well, you owe this." You're like, "How could I owe this? I did
Yeah.
this." Well, because you were successful in what you're doing. You've kept your operating costs low. Good job on that, but you didn't plan for the taxes that you'd be owing on this. And oh, by the way, because you made this large amount and didn't pay anything, Internal Revenue would like to have a conversation with you about that. And well, they want a little bit extra because you should have been submitting that. And they're like, how did this happen? Well, you weren't looking.
Right.
And I know it's not exciting for a lot of people. I get it. I understand that. But if you want your business to succeed and grow, you need to have an understanding. If you don't understand, learn enough because if you don't, then yeah, you might be successful, but eventually it's going to come crashing down. We know the stats, about the Fortune 500, half of them from the year 2000 are gone. And they had accountants. Every one of them did, a
Yeah.
lot of them, but half of them are gone. So if the big boys can go, then your small to mid-sized business can easily fall by the wayside if you don't, keep on touch with not only what your numbers are doing, but like you said, they tell a story. They not only tell you a story about your financials and how things are coming in and out and things like that, but they give you a story. They give you trends, creates opportunities to go,
Yeah.
maybe that's a market we should consider. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Absolutely. When you're talking about things like taxes, most businesses like, yeah, we're growing. We sold whatever 1 million last year. This year we sold 3 million. Well, that means you're probably going to have to pay. You've got a lot more money invested in inventory and receivables, right? And maybe you had to buy some equipment, and maybe you've got more staff. So all those things that you're investing in your business. So when it comes to tax time, here's a tax bill. I don't have that much money. How is that possible? And so because you put the money that would have gone towards taxes back into your business. So you have to have some appreciation of not just your numbers, but cash flow, how it works, how it's going to net out. Otherwise, you're flying blind. And when you're flying blind, if you fly blind long enough, you will run into something hard. But you're right. Looking at knowing what your financial statement is saying about your business, you see opportunities. And again, I'm talking in relation to business owners that I work with, going over their financial statements over time. After probably 4 to 6 months, they begin to see, oh yeah, okay. And after a while, say a year or two, they really understand their financial statements. You don't need to explain so much to them in layman's terms. They see opportunities, they see areas that need improvement. They can focus on the improvement. They can make better judgment about what costs to cut. That's the other thing I've seen with business owners. They get into business and they're so busy chasing revenue. They don't watch their overhead and they'll, take on costs. You can go through your bank statement, see all the subscriptions you're paying for. How many subscriptions are you paying for that you haven't used in a year or more? You'll be surprised. When's the last time you shopped your business insurance? When's the last time you shopped? Say you have suppliers that sell you goods and what have you, especially your big ones. And you say you're spending $1 million or more a year with somebody. Hey, I spent, have again, got to have your numbers. I spent X amount of dollars with you last year. Can we talk, some kind of price reduction, some kind of benefit? Treat me like a good customer because I am.
Yeah.
Um,
Reminds, go ahead.
but you have to be rigorous about knowing your numbers and being able to have those conversations. And most business owners, like I say, they're focused on, I got to get more revenue, got more revenue. And a lot of times they get mired in the day to day, running around micromanaging people, and they don't get to they wonder why they don't get to the revenue part. Anyway,
Yeah, it reminds me, I helped run a nonprofit several years ago. I came in and, they're roughly $12 million annual budget. A lot of funding from obviously donors, government, and certain agencies and things like that. And they were saying, we got to increase revenue. And it happened to be, just at the tail end of the recession back in, 09, 07, 08, 09, 10. So I was like, yeah, that may not be as easy as we think, but let's go down to the expense side of things and let's see if we can find some room there. So I went through and looked at all of our vendors, our vendor agreements, everything, was able to find close to $300,000 a year in additional savings by, renegotiating some contracts, signing some new deals, saved us an absolute ton of money. And what we ended up doing with that is we ended up hiring four social workers to provide
wow,
additional mental health services, which pleased the government. So the government gave us additional funding to expand that program. So we did generate additional revenue just by saving how much we were spending on office supplies and our telco bills and other things as well. And like, look, let's look at this. So there's always typically money in the expense items where it's basically you're creating revenue because you're reducing your spend on things that you can save some money on. And there's always opportunities. There's
right,
these pooled services. There's the if you're an employer, there's all kinds of different options. The government gives tax incentives and grants and all kind. There's money to be found. It takes work, but you need to
right,
look for them. And when
yeah,
you find them, what does that do for your business? All of a sudden you say, okay, wow, we got a rebate back from the government and it gave us this. Well, now again, this is where the financial planning, the first thing you're going is, okay, St. Lucia, here we come. No, 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 no. That, as tempting as that is, I mean, you have a plan for things because I think what happens is, oh, we got this extra money, but they don't have any forward thinking plan talking, to what you mentioned a moment ago about not knowing what you want your future to look like. Everyone should have an idea. It's like where every dollar goes and where every additional dollar can go. It doesn't have to be concrete, but at least have a rough plan on things because then that way your organization is going to continue to grow and thrive and be able to navigate through some pretty interesting times, which we've obviously had over these last 5 years.
right. Yeah, the thing I focus on, or I try to help business owners focus on, is if you could wave a magic wand over your business and your business would be perfect, what would it look like? And what I get them to work on is what do you want to have your business do for you so that you'll be satisfied? And by satisfaction, the definition is what is enough action to produce satisfaction? So how much revenue do you want to produce? How much net income do you want to produce? How much compensation to you? How much time do you want to be able to take off? What kind of culture do you want to have? What markets do you want to be in? Goods and services, as many details as possible. Because if you can focus on, if I had all this stuff, I'd be absolutely satisfied. That my mentor told me a long time ago, almost 40 years ago, the secret to life is getting exactly what you want, being ultimately satisfied. So when you can look at your business in that way in terms of what actions, what results I want to see in my business that's going to totally satisfy me, going to totally fulfill me, quote, as a business owner, that I'll be getting exactly what I want out of it, then you can begin to work towards those things. What happens with most people is they wander around with this, this really isn't it. If only my life were more, better, different, I'd be happy. Like happiness is out there waiting to find them, right? But they never define more, better, or different. And here's the thing, if you never declare what will be satisfaction for you, you will never be satisfied. You will never be satisfied. And that's again, so you kind of have this feeling of if only my life were more, better, different. You got to take the time. And again, for most business owners, that's a little bit on the rigorous side for them to sit down, take the time, do some writing, or type it in, whatever you want to do, but write out specifically what are you, if you could design your business any way you want to where it totally satisfy you, what would that look like? And what do you need to do to change your business to have those results show up?
Yeah, it's an
Um,
easy equation. It's mapping it out, and it's like I basically it's like a GPS. It's like, okay, where do I want to go? Where am
yeah,
I now? How do I get there? And I know a lot of entrepreneurs and just everyday walk of life individuals, a lot of times emotions get into the play, and an emotional accountant is they kind of frown upon that in accounting school. They're like, yeah, you got to keep it, the numbers are the numbers.
right.
But and I understand it. This, entrepreneurs, they've given their all. They've put a ton of time, effort, maybe their own money or seed funding, who knows, wherever the money came from. It's something that, it's really close to them, and I get it. I completely understand where they're coming from on that. But yeah, you got to get real with the things, and kind of put the emotions to the side for a moment. Say, okay, what would it look like for me to be just completely happy, satisfied with where my business is? Okay, where is it now? Don't be upset because people say, "Oh, I'm upset where my business is at." And I'm like, do you know what small percentage of humanity has the guts to launch their own business? Do you understand how unique you are as an
Yeah,
individual? It's like this is not for the weak, and you're strong. You launched it. Look where you've grown your business to. It, reinforces and hopefully kind of rekindles that dream and that fire of why they did it in the first place. It's like you can always adjust and change your mind and go into a different field or sector. We hear it all the time about entrepreneurs that I've had multiple exits. Cool. Some people, they launch something and they, grow it. All the gigantic businesses weren't always gigantic.
no,
They started infamously in a garage or at a kitchen table or a
yeah,
nightclub napkin. Your business could be that way too, but you got to take the steps in order to make that happen.
yes, exactly. You have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be very intentional about it. If you and the other, yeah, and I call it sort of a blindness, but most business owners really focus on revenue. I need more revenue. I need more revenue, and they don't pay enough attention to net profits. And my expression is, you can eat net profits, but you can't eat revenue. You know, um,
Yeah, you can look and go, all right, how much am I spending on this platform? Or like you said, the insurance, I did that personally for my insurance. I'm like, okay, I'm at the age now. It's like, yeah, knock on wood, good driver. I should be able to get, a little bit better rate than I've been getting. And sure enough, I did. And renewal time came around. Yes, there was an increase. I understand the industry, but it wasn't like, 2x kind of thing where it's like, oh my
right.
goodness, what the heck happened? Which a lot of times people do that, if they don't pick the right insurance organization. But there's always opportunities to kind of look at things and find that. And it also too it ties into, like I said, the storytelling that we talked about is, okay, well, why are we spending so much on that? What is that getting for us? We spend, $6,000 a year on AI innovation products. Okay, well, if you're an AR marketing company and you're helping organizations with their AI based needs, okay, that's a cost of doing business. I get it. But again, is it getting you the ROI? It's much like advertising. You spend a dollar, how much revenue do you get back from that?
Right.
If it's a less than a dollar, your ads aren't working. But if it's 2x or 3x, then you go, okay, maybe we're onto something. But again, the numbers will tell you a story. And I know so many people are afraid of it because they don't understand it, but get some understanding on it. Because all of a sudden you'll be able to see things and the story it's telling and the path of something's going on that can help you basically adjust. Say, okay, we're gonna, drill in a little bit more on that and see if we can get some more on that, or go, I guess that market is not good for us. Let's go ahead and change our minds on that because it doesn't look like the forecast or things are going to improve. If you're not looking at your numbers, you could waste a year, 2 years, who knows, on a market that's never going to buy your stuff. And
Right.
then
Or
then
they're
then
not going
what?
to buy enough of your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, yeah, we're selling a ton of it, but our cost, we're not selling it enough. It's like, you, just because the big boys and girls can do loss leader kind of things in retail doesn't mean you should. And
Right.
too often, I think entrepreneurs, well, start off small and build up. I'm like, can you? And that's again, there's so many different things. That's why the story of the financials and the dashboards and all that, if you're uncomfortable with that, figure out how to get comfortable. Work with somebody, like
Yeah.
you and others that can decipher it for people and say, okay, this is what it is, and ask some questions and get people to start thinking about it because the more planning and preparation you do, the more prepared you'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's the rigorous part that most entrepreneurs are just, I'll wing it. I'm good at making it up on the fly. Um, they really don't like don't give me a bunch of guidelines and we a bunch of rules. Don't be like putting a straitjacket on me. I'm good at making it up when I get there.
Yeah.
And that works for them in some ways, or empowering them in some ways that they can adjust on the fly. But it's also disempowering in that they lack preparation sometimes. And without preparation in some situations, you're just going to fall flat on your face.
Yep. Or you're going to miss an opportunity because you didn't see it
Yeah.
and you didn't have, because opportunities come, and
Or worse yet, you'll see the opportunity and not be prepared to take advantage of it.
yeah.
And so you live with that if only.
Yeah, they if
Um,
only say they crush us all. So, Carrie, love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and this amazing work you're doing?
well, I'm on LinkedIn. It's Cary Prejean. I also have a couple of websites that both start with strategic business advisors, plural. One ends in .org, and the other one ends in .us. The .us one deals with how I can help businesses double their net profit in a year or about a year, depending on how I guess motivated, talented their support staff are. The .org deals more with the dashboards, processes, and strategic planning.
I'll definitely have that in the show notes, and I highly encourage people to reach out to Carrie to basically, learn a little bit more and leverage your expertise on this because if the more you know about your business, the more you can do with your business. So, really
Right.
appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely, Michael. Enjoyed it. Thank you so much.